The baddie from PubSec, Zhu Yuan, will be the next S-rank limited character dropping after Ellen, and I would expect many players to be looking forward to picking her up. However, the S-rank limited characters in 1.1 have officially been revealed, which may leave some players unsure whether or not they should summon for Zhu Yuan or hold out for the 1.1 characters. So I want to go through the strengths of each character without going too deep into league territory, some synergies you may want to aim to build in preparation, and the individual value they would bring to your account. Ultimately, the character you summon for is completely down to you, and this is just to help provide a bit more clarity to players that are not sure on who to pick up. Just before we dive in, I do primarily cover WutheringWaves on my channel, so if you do enjoy the video and would like to see some more ZenlessZoneZero content from myself, I would appreciate it if you could let me know by subscribing to the channel and dropping a like. Also, drop a comment down below on which characters you are likely going to pick up. Now I'm going to kick it off with Zhu Yuan's value before we go over the 1.1 characters, so feel free to skip ahead if you just want info on the 1.1 characters, as the video will have chapters. Zhu Yuan will be our first S-rank ether character and is going to be a main DPS just like Ellen. Zhu Yuan is capable of dealing ranged attacks and melee attacks, meaning you would be at less risk of taking damage from enemies. The most noticeable aspect of Zhu Yuan would be... The second most noticeable aspect of Zhu Yuan would be the insane amount of agility she possesses, allowing you to avoid many attacks as you glide around enemies, which just looks so much fun and it does feel great to play with her. However, the best main DPS character, at least for now, would be Ellen. A major reason why would be Ellen synergizes extremely well with the best stun character being Lycan and one of the best supports being Sokaku, so these three would form the mono ice team, allowing you to build ice anomaly on enemies pretty quick. Once you have built up enough ice anomaly on enemies, a few effects will be triggered. First, the enemies are frozen in place, then the ice would shatter, dealing ice damage, and then for a certain amount of time they receive extra crit damage. So since Ellen deals a lot of damage relying on crits, having a full mono ice team to build ice anomaly would allow even more DPS from Ellen's crits. In regards to Zhu Yuan synergies, she doesn't have a team as strong as Ellen's mono ice team, but she is an ether character that can inflict corruption from building ether anomaly, so she would be capable of playing in both the main DPS position and as a sub DPS in dual DPS teams. Once you build up enough ether anomaly, you would inflict enemies with corruption, which will deal extra ether damage over time and will force enemies to attack their own allies. So when you are going up against multiple enemies, the value of corruption would definitely go up. Naturally, Nicole would be the best character to pair up with Zhu Yuan, as she is the only other ether character in the game, so the both of them would be able to build ether anomaly pretty quick together to then inflict corruption on enemies. Just more Nicole action, I assume, would be enough for most players to want to pick up Zhu Yuan and pair these two together. Also, Nicole is a solid character in general, having a small vortex that sucks enemies in and can defense shred by a considerable amount. You can then finish the team with either a stun character like Anby or Grace being a strong Anomaly DPS character. So you would have the option of either building a ton of days on enemies with Anby or proccing Disorder more often on enemies with Grace. So in terms of the most flexible and the character that provides more longevity, it would be Zhu Yuan, as she is able to play in dual DPS teams as well as being the solo DPS. Essentially, Ellen provides the most value currently as a DPS and Zhu Yuan provides the most value long term. Either way, I would recommend to have one of these characters at least, since the characters in 1.1 aren't going to be main DPS characters. So if you have pulled Ellen, it would be better to possibly skip Zhu Yuan, or if you haven't pulled Ellen yet, Zhu Yuan would be a very valuable character to pick up. Now, Qingyi will be the first S-rank character dropping in 1.1, with Jane Doe following 3 weeks after. Qingyi is confirmed to be an electric character and has much sense as it would make for her to be a main DPS character. Since the other three positions have solid picks already, Qingyi will be joining Anby as an electro stun character. Stun characters in general provide a ton of value since you inflict a lot more days on enemies, which allow you to pop sequence attacks much quicker, build energy for your ultimate, and you deal much more damage with the 150% damage multiplier increase when enemies are stunned more often. So Anby being the only stun character players would have access to if they don't have either Lycan or Colada would just go to show how valuable of a character she really is. So it's a bit of a shame that Qingyi is going to be an electric stun character out of all the other attributes she could have been, since Anby is a solid stun character already for the electric attribute. Either way, Qingyi will still be a great stun character, given she will be our first limited stun character, and so we can expect her to build days on enemies much quicker than Anby. Also, endgame does require require us to have 2 teams built, so that would provide enough reason to pull for Qingyi even if you have Anby built up. The other 2 stun characters being Kaleda and Lycan are on the standard banner, so if you manage to pull either of them as your guaranteed 5-star or from any banner, Qingyi wouldn't have as much value to you as to someone who doesn't have either, since it's completely down to RNG whether you pull Lycan or Kaleda quite soon or many months later down the line. So considering Qingyi is going to likely be a strong stun character, she would hold a lot of value for your account, and it would be worth pulling for her since it's your best chance of picking up an S-rank stun character for your account. In terms of Qingyi's synergies, they likely would be similar to Anby given they have the same role and attribute. So the other electric characters like Grace and Rina would be great alongside Qingyi, as it would increase the duration of shock, increase electric damage for the team, and you would build electric anomaly quite fast too. Also, since Qingyi would be in the same faction as Zhu Yuan, she would synergize well with her too. Would be a bit difficult to pull off picking up both Zhu Yuan and Qingyi as they are both back to back, but if you manage to pull both, they would definitely be great together. Stun characters just hold a ton of value and would have quite the longevity, so if you do want another stun character for your account, Qingyi would be a great character to pick up. However, since Anby already crushes the electric stun role, it means you don't need to pick up Qingyi if you don't want to. Now moving on to Jane Doe, which is dropping second and is going to be a physical anomaly DPS character, which makes perfect sense since we are majorly lacking in the anomaly DPS category. Anomaly DPS characters are quite good in general since they don't rely on crit rate like Zhu Yuan and Ellen, essentially like dot characters from HonkaiStarRail. Building up physical anomaly would inflict assault on enemies, which will interrupt enemies dealing physical damage and increase the days inflicted on the target. So it is a valuable anomaly to build up since you would be hitting those sequence attacks even quicker when you have a stun character on the team. Anomaly DPS characters tend to be quite flexible in team building as you can pair them up with another anomaly DPS character or a main DPS character. So Jane Doe would definitely have some longevity, and considering how great of a character Grace is, being the only other S-rank anomaly DPS character, it would be fair to expect Jane Doe to be even better and to potentially introduce something new to the anomaly DPS category. In terms of synergies, Grace, Jane Doe and Rina would synergize very well together, as you would be inflicting disorder quite often from the physical and electric anomaly build-up. It is an expensive team for sure since both Grace and Rina are standard banner S-rank characters, but if you have at least one of them, you might be able to pick up the other character by the time Jane Doe drops. As I mentioned with Zhu Yuan earlier, she can play in dual DPS teams, so Jane Doe would synergize well with Zhu Yuan too, as they both would be applying anomalies to inflict disorder on enemies. The third character to run would be Qingyi, but since all 3 characters are back to back, it's a bit unrealistic to pull all 3. If you do, then they would work very well together. Alternatively, Zhu Yuan, Jane Doe, and Nicole would be a great team to run too. Anomaly DPS characters would be great long term as they would synergize with many characters now and in the future especially, so it would make Jane Doe a great character to pick up since there aren't many anomaly DPS characters either. Overall, the 1.1 characters seem to provide the most longevity, being a stun character and an anomaly DPS character. However, Zhu Yuan and Ellen are main DPS characters which will help you fly through a lot of content. So it is really down to your account situation on who would be the most valuable character to pick up. I would still definitely recommend picking up either Ellen or Zhu Yuan at least before committing to the 1.1 characters, as main DPS characters will help the most in clearing content. Ultimately, the choice is down to you, so just pick up the characters you believe are best for your account or just the ones you like most. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel for more ZenlessZoneZero content, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Also comment down below how good you think the 1.1 characters will be. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.